Okay, I'll keep this brief. If any of you are curious why I haven't been posting that many videos recently, just check out my Twitter, the link should be below, and that'll give you the details. But enough about that. Today we're going to talk about the max moves that are available for Dynamax transformations. Yeah, so we know some information, and I'd like to comment that the complexity of these max moves are going to be adding more and more details to battles, making them less boring and more exciting, less predictable. Like you get more options, which is, in my opinion, a good thing. Some people are upset because they want Mega Evolution. Not that many people are upset that we don't have Z moves, but most people want Mega Evolutions. Yeah, those things aside, there's nothing you can do about it. We have to concentrate on Dynamax, Gigantamax, Max moves, and G-Max moves. So what we know so far is what you see in front of you. We know that each type has its own unique max move. Status moves, unlike attacking moves, all turn into max guard, which is basically protect. But leaving that aside, every max move is basically like a Z move, where it doesn't matter what move it is, as long as it's the same type, based on the type, it'll turn into a max move. Of course, the power varies based on which move you're using. So, for example, a flamethrower in a max move is more powerful than an ember in a max move, just like Z moves, except unlike Z moves, max moves can be used for 3 turns while the Pokemon is Dynamaxed. They revealed this and it's good. It's more balanced that way because they made them weaker, I can tell. The base power of max moves seem to be slightly weaker than Z moves, which makes sense because a Z move you're only allowed to use it once should be stronger than something you can use for 3 turns. So, we're going over the effects. The effects are significant because they add a complexity to the competitive scene, to the metagame. It's very interesting if you're interested in battling. If you're more into casual gameplay, then maybe it's not so important, but let's get into it. We know that Max Airstream, the flying type max move, boosts the user's speed. Max Darkness lowers the target's special defense stat. Max Flare activates Harsh Sunlight. Max Geyser activates Rain. Max Knuckle was unknown for now. Max Lightning activates Electric Terrain. Max Overgrowth activates Grassy Terrain. Max Rockfall activates a Sandstorm. Max Starfall activates Misty Terrain. And Max Steel Spike boosts the user's defense. And finally, Max Strike, the normal type max move, lowers the opponent's speed stat. Now you can see there's a pattern here. It's not that hard to notice that, at least in theory, it looks like of the 18 types, 4 max moves are going to activate the respective terrains, which in total is Electric, Grassy, Misty, and Psychic. 4 max moves are going to activate Weather, which will be Sun, Rain, Sandstorm, and Hail, with only Hail being unrevealed, just like how Psychic Terrain is unrevealed. This is just, we're predicting here. And that leaves 10 types left. And we can see from a few of them that some of them boost the user's stats and some of them lower the opponent's stats. So the way I see it, and it's not that hard to notice, because you can tell the pattern. They're going to give 4 max moves the ability to activate terrain, 4 max moves the ability to activate weather, and the other 10 each raise or lower a respective stat, which adds up perfectly because there's 5 main stats: attack, defense, special defense, and speed. Multiply that by 2, because half of them are for your own gain and half of them are for your opponent's decreasing. So out of those 10, 5 are to raise your own stats and 5 are to lower your opponent's stats. At least that's what the math adds up to. I could be wrong, but it seems very likely. We will have confirmation eventually. Now, I could try to make predictions for what the unrevealed max moves stat things will be, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, we know for sure about 3 terrain max moves, and it seems that the Psychic type max move will activate Psychic Terrain. It makes sense. We know for a fact that 3 max moves activate Weathers, so it seems completely common sense that the Ice type max move is going to activate Hail. So, since we already know 4 max moves that lower speed, lower special defense, and raise defense, that only leaves 6 max moves that we don't know for sure. We know that 1 will raise attack, if my theory is correct. We know that 1 will raise attack, 1 will lower attack, 1 will lower defense, 1 will raise special attack, One will lower special attack, and one will raise special defense, if the pattern holds. I don't see any reason why this theory should be wrong. It's just a simple prediction based on the patterns, you know? And I like this because there's more options now. Now, if you want a terrain up, you don't just need one of the Tapus or a Pokemon that knows a move. You could do it with the max move, which does damage at the same time. Imagine it. It's just so beautiful, this complexity. Before, if you don't have one of the Tapus, if you want, let's say, electric terrain up, you have to use the move electric terrain, which takes a turn. But with Dynamax, all you have to do is use max lightning and it activates electric terrain while dealing damage. That's incredible in my opinion, because it's just useful. Likewise, if you really want Sun Up for a Sun team, usually you have to use an ability like Drought, or waste a turn using Sunny Day, but now you could deal damage with Max Flare and activate Harsh Sunlight at the same time. And everyone knows that terrains and weathers, if utilized properly, can change the path of a battle. You know, the terrains each have their own unique effects, the weathers all have their own unique effects, and don't forget the other 10 types, which seem at the present moment to be raising your stats or lowering your opponent's stats, which can also change the battle in your favor, you know? You never know. So, in my opinion, I'm concluding that this prediction makes sense, and I'm also concluding that max moves are amazingly complex and beautiful for the metagame. I'm no expert, mind you. I'm not like, I don't play competitively, but I do like all the mechanics of Pokemon battling. All of those things, I just need to know them because they're very useful. I don't like not knowing these things, and I'm sure some of you may be curious to find this out too. So, if I'm right, we will find out that the remaining max moves, which for reference are the fighting one, the poison one, the bug one, the ground one, the ghost one, and the dragon one. We don't know names for them, and I mean, we know the name for the fighting one, but not the others, but we don't know the effect of any of these 6. Now, the easiest one to predict would be that Max Knuckle, the fighting type max move, will raise the user's attack. That's kind of obvious, but I cannot say for sure, because there's still 6 max moves with unknown effects. Now, while we're on the topic of max moves, we might as well discuss G-max moves, of which we know 3. The 3 G-max moves we know are G-max Finale, G-max Stone Surge, and G-max Wind Rage, which add even more complexity to the metagame. G-max Finale, which is a fairy type move, is the signature max move of Alcremie in its Gigantamax form. Gigantamax Alcremie, when it uses G-max Finale, does damage as well as healing every Pokemon on the user's side. Now, this suggests multi-battles, double battles, maybe triple battles. We don't know about that, but the wording by saying heals every Pokemon on the user's side makes that kind of intuitive. And that's just incredibly broken. I'm not saying it's too broken because I'm not really the best person to judge whether it's too broken or not. I can't be sure, but I love how useful it is. It is extremely powerful. Of course, the fact that these are signature moves means that they can only be used by their respective Pokemon. So, Gigantamax Alcremie, G-max Finale, like I said, it does damage and heals every Pokemon on the user's side. That is amazing in and of itself. Next, we have Dreadnought. Gigantamax Dreadnought, when it uses G-max Stone Surge, which is a water-type move, even though it sounds like a rock-type move because of the stone part, but I guess the surge part means it's a water-type move, it does damage and applies sharp rocks on the ground. So, like I mentioned earlier with the regular max moves, you don't have to waste a turn applying terrain or weather, or even raising your stats or even lowering your stats. You can do these things while dealing damage. At the same time as dealing damage, like many moves have additional effects, but these are guaranteed effects, mind you. They're not like 10%, 30% chance. Guaranteed effects, while doing damage, you either raise a terrain, activate a weather, lower a stat, raise a stat, and in this case, also applying Stealth Rock. Stealth Rocks is extremely useful in battles. They're so annoying to have to face them, and it's so satisfying to use Stealth Rocks against your opponent because it can also chip away at your opponent's health and make the difference between a loss and a win. So the fact that G-max Stone Surge does damage and applies Stealth Rocks at the same time, it's amazing in my opinion. because it's something that we haven't had before. And finally, Gigantamax Corviknight uses G-Max Wind Rage, a flying type max move signature to Corviknight, which does damage and removes all terrains, entry hazards, and barriers, and so forth. So, it's basically a damaging move which also acts as defog. But not just defog, because I'm not certain defog gets rid of terrains. So it's defog combined with Lycanroc's signature Z move. So I guess max moves and Z moves have a lot in common after all. Because Lycanroc's personal Z move so far is the only known move that I can think of which gets rid of current terrain. I'm not aware that defog itself can get rid of terrain. Defog gets rid of entry hazards and barriers. Now barriers can also be taken down by Brick Break. So yeah, but to have a damaging move, Wind Rage, G-Max Wind Rage, used by Gigantamax Corviknight, it deals damage and removes all terrains, entry hazards, barriers, and so forth. That is just as amazing as applying Stealth Rocks with damage or healing your Pokemon while dealing damage. It's the best moves, in my opinion, are those that have additional effects, and especially guaranteed effects that don't have a 10 or 20 or 30% chance of activating. So, in conclusion, it seems pretty obvious that max moves and G-Max moves will have a lot of applications, more so than people probably expected before they knew anything about it. Now, for some of you, this may be obvious, and some of you may not even care, and some of you may be thinking I'm too excited about this. But when it comes to battling, as long as you have the perfect win condition, these moves will be more than just a help. They will be essential for winning many battles, and I can almost guarantee that. And the fact that the metagame and the Pokemon mechanics are becoming more and more complex, further and further away from the simplicity of Gen 1, makes me happy, because, you know, the simplicity of previous generations is not really as exciting and as mind-stimulating. I think the more complex the game is, while it may be difficult for some people to grasp, I think it makes you think more, and that just makes the game more immersive, and that's a good thing. So yeah, in conclusion, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. Please check out my channel for more videos like this, and for more Sword and Shield news. I'll be playing Sword and Shield when it comes out. Don't forget to come back for that. And check out my Twitter and my Discord. Don't forget to like, share with a friend, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.